The Man in Line.
25 to 1 with Dr. Alex Allinson, Minister for Education, Sport and Culture. So let's go to education and the teachers' dispute. What stage are we at with the teaching? Many of them. How many? 5, 6 unions?
We're in dispute with 4 unions. There are more, particularly in terms of university lecturers at UCM, but there has been a chronic dispute around a range of issues, pay, but also conditions and workload. We're at a delicate stage at the moment of trying to negotiate a just settlement with all of them, because nobody wants to take industrial action. Nobody wants to have action short of strike. Certainly not myself. And as I said earlier on in the programme, that was one of my key priorities coming into this. We've obviously had the Beamans report looking at some of the underlying reasons why there is a dispute, why teachers on the Isle of Man, for the first time really in their history, decided to ballot for strike action and actually say yes, that they were prepared to do that. And that shows how much desperation there was in terms of perhaps some of the lack of communication between the department and the people who work for the department to keep our schools going and our education service going. From word go, I've said that's my main priority, that we need to have open communication with everyone involved and get a settlement for this so we can move on and draw a line under it.
When you were offered this job then, when you were offered the ministerial role, did you have at the back of your mind a kind of magic bullet, something that you could do to undo that logjam with teachers?
I don't think that there is a magic bullet. I wish there was.
Because when we talk about money, the pay is linked to Britain, isn't it? It's linked to it.
It is. We follow a pay scale that's agreed in the UK. We do with certain other professions as well.
So do they think they're not getting enough? Or?
The argument from some of the teacher representatives was that the cost of living's more on the Isle of Man, and that doesn't recompense for the wages they get. Or also, we don't have some of the weightings that are given particularly to people who are working in London or the London outer suburbs. In terms of a magic bullet, I don't think there is. It comes down to common sense. It comes down to valuing people. It comes down to having a culture that's open, and it comes down to clear communication and listening. And when I took over this role, that's what I thought I could bring into it, perhaps more so, is listening to people's worries, listening to their concerns, and then acting on them in an open manner. So the first thing I did was to meet with all the people involved, introduce myself and say, look, I'm here to listen to your grievances. Let's sit down and sort these out together in an open way. And hopefully we can conclude that. I think there's a huge amount of goodwill from all sides. We're changing the culture within the department, but we need to change the culture right across the education service to value those members of staff who work in our schools, value those teachers, so we can deal with some of the issues we've got, such as recruitment and retention of staff.
Talking of which, have we filled all the roles on the Isle of Man in the teaching profession?
We will never fill all the roles, because people will retire, people will move sideways, people will move off island, on island. It's a constant battle to recruit the sort of really good, high quality staff we need for the island, and we have on our island. Some people have found the pressure over the last year of not being able to visit their relatives and their families across unbearable and have left. Other people have decided to come to the Isle of Man because they can actually teach here in a normal environment without masks everywhere and screens. So it is a constant battle. What we need to do is really, as I tried to do earlier, boast about what we have. We've got a fantastic education system on the island. We've got great teachers, wonderful kids, and good schools. We need to be proud of that, as I am, and advertise that, and attract people from around the world to come and work on our island.
Castle Rushen High School, we talked about the budget for that. Yep. Is that signed off? Is it just waiting to be built?
It's waiting to be signed off, certainly. We've been working with Treasury in terms of looking at their long-term capital project. We've been, obviously, at the moment, we're dealing with an uncertain financial situation, but the future development of Castle Rushen is secure. We need to get the plans right, make sure we can accommodate as many pupils as possible, given all the building that's happening in the south at the moment. We need to plan for the future with that. We need to create an environment that encourages learning and have something that is fit for the future, and then start building it.
Will there be a swimming pool at the new Castle Rushen?
Well, there's a swimming pool there at the moment. What we're trying to do is look at how to extend the life of that, but let's be honest, money is short. Earlier on this year, we were facing an enormous black hole in terms of paying for the damage created by coronavirus. And that was before all the other black holes that the Treasury Minister and the Chief Minister have alerted us to in terms of public sector, pensions, everything else. Money is tight. We need to grow the economy to afford the services we want. And certainly I'm looking forward to working with Treasury on this and other capital projects, but they need to be planned, they need to be costed, and we also need the workforce to deliver them, because we can't have builders running around from one project to the other trying to do half the job. We need to schedule these and do it in the right way.
Is there a consensus now of what's going to happen with School Jubilee, Murray's Road and the Park Road site?
What I said earlier on this week in the House of Keys was that I was keen that we prioritise those schools that needed replacement or needed refurbishment, but we did that in a strategic way. We actually have a list of all the schools we need to do work on over the next 10, 20 years, prioritise that so that we can actually provide the jobs that construction work will create, but also provide those facilities. You can't do everything at once. We don't have the scope on the island to employ that number of local businesses. But if we can actually schedule a lot of these capital projects going over the next couple of years, we can actually build not only a better education service, but also support the construction industry on our island as well.
Dr. Alex Allinson with us, regarding COVID, how do you react as a medical professional of many years? How do you react to the skeptics?
I can appreciate that there's a huge range of different ideas and thoughts about coronavirus. The scientific community can sometimes be divided. You can read one paper one day and get a conflicting idea from another trial the following day.
Do you still read medical papers?
Yep. Probably now more so than ever. I used to just read the British Medical Journal every week, but now I do the Lancet and I do literature searches for coronavirus, because there is so much out there. And in my position, although I'm Minister for Education, people still will sometimes ask me for my medical input as well. So I need to get those facts right. What we know is that we're dealing with a very crafty virus, and again we put human characteristics on viruses. This is the third coronavirus outbreak we've had. We had SARS back in 2003, which came from China. There was a big outbreak in Toronto, one of the hospitals there. We had MERS coming from the Middle East in 2012, and now we've got COVID. Each one of them has been slightly different. This one is smart. It infects a lot of people. They will spread it before getting any symptoms, and so it is spread like wildfire right around the world.
Does it infect children in a different way to adults?
Yes. We know from a lot of the research that's been going on that children, even if they're in the household of people who've got it, don't really get infected, and if they do get infected, the way it affects them is very, very different, because they've got a much better immune system and fight it off, and they're much less likely to spread it, which is very different to influenza. Again, one of the big issues we've had is that a lot of the planning has been for a flu pandemic, and we dealt with bird flu and swine flu, and we were expecting another one to come along. Coronavirus is different. With flu, you get ill, you get weak, you get a pneumonia. With coronavirus, you get acute respiratory distress. You end up on a ventilator. And that's been the big issue for us, is we don't have an unlimited supply of those. COVID can very quickly overwhelm your health service, both by taking your staff down, but also by filling up intensive care and stopping other people getting life-saving procedures and therapies.
Dr. Alex Allinson on the Man in Line today. You can text 166 177, email studio@manxradio.com. Call 66 13 68. Anything on your mind?